In this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps for drawing your own color wheel and demonstrate how you can achieve any color by combining only the three primaries, yellow, red, and blue. I'll be using water-soluble colored pencils, but any other type of pigment will work. We'll then take a look at the different types of color schemes and identify them on our color wheel. Start by drawing a circle of any radius with a compass. Using the same radius, pick any point on the circle and work your way around in sectors, making a small mark for your next reference point. This should divide the circle into 6 equal parts, which, when linked, create a hexagon. You can now use 3 of this hexagon's vertices to draw a triangle and define its midpoints. Now comes the trickier part of dividing the color wheel into 12 sections. Use each of the triangle's midpoints to pin the compass. Create new marks along the circle. You should end up with a total of 6 marks, 2 for each of the triangle's midpoints. Connecting them with the center point of your circle will help divide the color wheel into 12 areas, which I'll start filling in soon. Now that the circle's done, I'll erase the construction lines so that we'll only focus on the color wheel itself. Try to use only primary colors when filling in the wheel so you can get an idea of how the pigments of the medium that you chose behave when combined. Let's start with yellow. Because our tertiary colors will require 3 layers of pigment, I'll go over each section 3 times just to make sure that the pigment quantity is equally distributed throughout. I'll move on to red. Remember that primary colors should be 3 sections apart because they are equally distant on the color wheel. Each secondary color is a combination of 2 primaries, so mixing yellow and red will create orange, red and blue will give us purple, and blue and yellow will turn into green. I'll start with orange, always adding in the lighter color as a first layer, then purple, and finally green. We're left with the sections for tertiary colors, which we'll be able to render by mixing the neighboring colors together. If you're also using dry media, remember to use the primary color as a first layer. Quick cleanup to get rid of all the smudges, and I'll add in some water to dissolve the pigments and make the colors look brighter. This is going to be helpful in the next steps when exemplifying color schemes. A bit of digital magic, and we can recreate the type of color wheel that you would be familiar with from any kind of software that uses color pickers. On this wheel, we'll be able to see the most commonly used color schemes, which are essentially combinations of colors that work well together in any composition, be it interior design, fine art, graphic design, or any other field that involves working with color. Let's start with the monochromatic color scheme, which focuses on a single color, using variations of tints and shades. So tints would be the main color mixed with white, and shades would result from mixing it with black. The color palette that forms a monochromatic scheme would use a combination of tints and shades of the same base color. Moving on to the next scheme, which is called the analogous scheme, think about the same base color as before and add to it its 2 neighboring colors. So we used red for the previous example. An analogous harmony would be red along with a violet hue, which is neighbor color on one side, and an orange hue, which is neighbor color on the other side. But really, any 3 neighboring colors on the wheel are considered analogous. Complementary colors are high in contrast because they are opposite to each other on the wheel. Think of pairs like yellow and purple, red and green, orange and blue, and anything in between, as long as they are directly across from each other on the color wheel. To tone down such a strong contrast, you can choose to use a split complementary scheme. This means using 1 main color on the wheel along with the 2 neighboring colors of its direct opposite. If we go 1 step further, we get the triadic harmony, which is essentially a group of 3 colors that are evenly spaced or equally distant to each other on the color wheel. If you use this triadic scheme, it's essential to choose 1 dominant color in your composition, as an equal distribution between all three will result in visual overload. Tetradic color schemes use a total of 4 colors, pairing any two neighbors with their two opposites. This creates a nice balance between warm and cool hues. Make sure to let one of them be the dominant color and use the others as accents. Another scheme that uses 4 colors is known as the square color scheme. This combination brings together 2 pairs of complementary colors equally distant to each other on the wheel. Basically, if you were to draw lines between these colors, you would get a square. If you plan on using these color harmonies in your next artwork or designs, you'll want to have a color wheel at hand, preferably one that was created using the same medium. This will help you eliminate all that guesswork of color combinations that is so prevalent and time-consuming, especially for beginner artists. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.